equity and justice for all.
So I'd like to start with welcoming guests and give some information. We do not have a quorum tonight, but so we can't do any action items, but we do have some informational items. And Tony Ashton is going to call in to help us approve the consent agenda so all you staff that are here can get paid. So you're welcome. Hi, Tony. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Rob Simmons?
Yeah, I'm just walking outside, so it's not so loud.
Okay. I appreciate you calling in.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've had a chance to look over the
Glad to be here.
you've had a chance to look over the board docs, first few items that we'll be approving?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
There's been a motion by Director Mike Garza to approve the agenda.
Second?
Second by Director Tony Ashton. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. The next item is citizens' request to speak. There are no requests, so we'll move on to item number C1, consent agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
I move to approve tonight's consent agenda.
We'll let Tony make the motion on that. So Tony Ashton made the motion to approve,
I second.
and Mike Garza has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. We're going to move right into adjournment of the meeting, and then we'll go into our discussion items just so that Tony can get on with his evening. So I will accept a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting from any action.
So moved.
Been a motion by Director Mike Garza,
Second?
second by Director Tony Ashton to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, Tony, for your time.
Thank you, Director Ashton.
That's two. Have a good night.
All right, so now we will move into, well, I'm going to hold off on the assessment of the meeting. I mean, I guess we could do that, but it's kind of, I guess we could do an assessment tonight, but we really didn't take any action on anything. So we'll do that at the end. So let's move right into administrative reports. So we'll start out with our superintendent report.
We have a few things. We're going to bring up first a conversation that Gina Bullis is just going to give us a little summary on.
Okay, so I reviewed the Geotech report, and as well as Director Stuart Hilmus, him and I had a conversation this afternoon. So there were not any items in the Geotech report that would give the board or give the district a reason to not move forward with the purchase of the land. So I don't know if you have any specific questions.
I did not understand the language, so I was hoping
Yeah.
to hear from Stuart.
The land, and Stuart gave basically the green light today. So the land is very similar. What's underneath the land is very similar to the Wahitas, with the exception of there are no underground drains, as we found at Wahitas. So.
So just for for our audience and for our student reps, this is for the piece of property north of town that the district's been looking to purchase, the 80 acres. So, okay. So, is there anything else to share on that? So when we talk about the feasibility study, does Strata do the entire feasibility study, or was that just a part of it?
This is a part of it. And in the report, they talk about more extensive work as we get into design. They lay out different components that need to be done, for actual design work. But what they look at is the soil beneath the surface, and they talk about what's between a foot and 5 feet under, between 5 feet and 12 feet. You run into some gravel and some large boulders. They talk about different areas on the site that don't have natural backfill. There used to be a home resident out by Lee, the corner of Lee and 14th. So that was removed. And so the backfill on that, would need to be looked at, if any structure was going to be out there. So things like that. There was no groundwater found. And below 12, right around 12 feet is where they ran into caliche, which is pretty standard for the property, the other properties that they've done the same work for the district.
We also have a report out by Pete Perez on Eureka math.
All right. Good evening. Going to provide an update on the work and the progress around the K-5 Eureka math test and test your memory a little bit related to the work from last school year. These conversations we continue to frame around the instructional vision that's been adopted and developed by multiple stakeholders in the district. And a teacher shared this with me, this idea about the math adoption process and sort of the history of how these things work. And the story goes like this. Year one, we decide we need a new math program because the adoption cycle says we should adopt something. Year two, we organize a committee and we narrow it down to 2 or 3 choices and we run a pilot. Year three, we adopt a program. Year four, staff are concerned about an implementation dip. Is this work for our kids? Year five, there are some concerns that our scores are going to go down because we didn't buy all the pieces of the program. Year six, we buy more pieces and continue to listen to teacher and principal concerns about the program. Year seven, we decide we need a new math program. And I thought that was an interesting way for veteran teachers and how they think about the process of delivering instruction, particularly in the area of math. So what that leads us to is the history of this process. We know that it was proposed. The proposal in 1617 felt too rushed for some administrators and for teachers, and there was just around 50% agreement on moving forward with the adoption of the curriculum. This year, we had an entire school year to pilot that product and to really get a good grasp on what Eureka provides for our students. That May 25th bullet, the last one there, I want to be really transparent with the board about where we are in the process, because this is what the elementary principals brought you last spring. And these are some of the commitments that they made as educational leaders in our system, that they would provide a K-5 math scope and sequence. That's been provided. The math resource for copies and framework. We've been able to stay ahead of that for the most part. Attend training in Issaquah. We got several teachers trained early on in Eureka Math. Develop a pilot program, which I'll come back to. Report to the board in January, which is where we're at today. And then by spring break of 2017, we would develop a PD schedule for the following school year based on the adoption that we would ask the board to consider. Now, the reason I've highlighted the develop a pilot program is some of the parameters we, as principals, had initiated related to Ready Math, which was a second product that we were considering at some of our sites. When we engaged with Ready in a conversation about piloting their program, they had some requirements for participation in a pilot that we couldn't meet. Those were along the lines of it had to be a year long. We couldn't use any supplemental materials. We couldn't have other programs running alongside their product. So it just wasn't something we could ask our teachers to do and take on. So the pilot program that was developed was based only on Eureka. We had this year to learn that system and to think about those ideas. So I wanted to make sure that you understood that. We've also had an opportunity this year to really think about our work in a different way based on some ideas and systems that Dr. Hurst has brought to our system. And this one about Know Thy Impact, some research we've done around math curricula, it really indicates that something we've known all along, but that the power lies in the teachers and the belief that our students can do it. And really that this work is around an effort to clarify math K-5 for both teachers and students. And that idea about district and classroom coherence, that's really what we're getting at by adopting something that's consistent K-5. Because the research tells us that there's a strong belief that when teachers believe kids can get the work done, and when there's clarity around what they're doing, we can make it happen for our kids. The timeline that we're proposing, we met in December to engage with the principals and the current reality at their schools related to Eureka. They've had an opportunity, principals, to present to their staff this same PowerPoint presentation and to continue to receive feedback from their teaching staff. Today is just an initial consideration for the board to develop questions, to certainly provide feedback for us as we move forward through the process. And what we're suggesting is that we would have a couple of weeks here to provide a parent preview, which we also had that opportunity last school year with Eureka, and that we would submit in February for consideration for formal adoption by the board so that we could meet the deadlines we set for ourselves related to PD for the next school year. And so lastly, these 5 points here were what was the basis for the conversation that the elementary principals had for you last school year. And we've just added this last bullet that those principals are in agreement with moving forward with the Eureka adoption. And the data that they're considering most readily is teacher voice, this opportunity that they've had to engage with their grade level chairs and their leadership teams around moving forward with the Eureka adoption.
So a couple questions, Pete. So first of all, I as one board member, agreed with waiting to adopt because I trust our staff, all of our staff, our principal's recommendation that was made based on the input they were getting from staff. What I just want to make sure of is that we are still hearing that voice of staff. Because when you say that the data is the teacher's voice, but there's no data for me to see. Does that make sense? So before we had surveys, and I think our memory was that teachers said the surveys weren't really, we didn't have enough time to look at them. The surveys weren't accurate because a lot of people answered it that they don't know. They don't have enough information to answer. So when you say that, explain that data, teacher voice to me.
So the survey that you're referring to from last school year was, I don't even remember how many questions were on it, but it would have been nearly impossible for a highly qualified teacher to go through those steps and for us to use that data in a reasonable way. We shortened the survey significantly, and it got about, it got at this idea of, are you comfortable with where you're at with this curriculum? Do you think that this could work for our kids? Some of those basic questions that we wanted teachers to really, this idea about efficacy, did they really believe that Eureka could make it happen for our kids? In our conversations with the principals, the thought that we came out with was, let's approach the leadership teams. So the survey's there, that data exists, but certainly if the board's request is that we offer that survey to all K-5 teachers, and that's the direction that you would like me to go, we're prepared to do that tomorrow. We could send that survey out and gather that data. But we do have that data for the leadership teams and the grade chairs at each of the 4 elementaries.
I think for me, I want to feel comfortable that we're not going to be in the same situation last year when it comes to the adoption. We get a big group who comes that's concerned about it, and I would imagine everyone knows by now where the recommendation is going, and so I'm guessing we would have heard something. But I still trust that our staff will voice their opinion, that they feel comfortable doing that, and so if they're saying that this is something we need to go with, then I support that, and I just want to make sure that that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I would say that having had that experience last year as a building principal, one piece of structure, systems thinking that we've tried to be real clear about is that our role is to really help principals help teachers so that those teachers can help students. And so I've relied heavily on feedback from those principals. How are your teachers feeling? What are they thinking about this? But certainly I can dig a little deeper if that's the request and provide some of that information to Dr. Hurst that I know he could get to you.
Awesome. We have one more report that we want to share out with the board of directors also. We just wanted to let the board of directors know that due to the snow days, we have to make just a few changes on our M&O, capital levy, and bond schedule. So you can see the schedule. I won't read it line for line. We had one this morning. I was not able to attend. I was actually at Wahida's doing a vision meeting. But you can see the changes. We were able to capture everyone with the exception of Chamber. But from my understanding, the Chamber is going to participate in some of the other meetings that we have scheduled up here. So we're still going to capture the Chamber of Commerce also. So we're still not missing anyone. We're able to capture everyone. So we just wanted to report that out to the board of directors.
One of these for sure is a reschedule, the Rotary meeting. So has there been a commitment from board members of who's going to go to that?
We have not had a board member commit to that one yet.
Is that the only? There's a few of them rescheduled, right, Sandra? I just want to make sure that you guys have board members that have committed to those.
Yeah.
Well, you and I had
Yeah, the only one.
The original one.
So the Lions Club is original. Hiawatha is a reschedule. PAC meeting. So Hiawatha, Othello High School, and Rotary are all reschedules. The others were on the original.
So
Calendar.
there's, 3 that you need to get.
So we need to reach out to the
commitments
board
to.
members, yeah.
And also, I got a text from Director Ashton that he didn't think he'd be back in town. His flight would be back in time to do Lions tomorrow.
Okay.
Is that tomorrow? Yeah, tomorrow.
That's tomorrow.
If there's someone who could do that for him, is that? Yeah, and I'll have to get back. I'm not sure if I can or not. For me, Rotary, I should be able to do Rotary. I was originally on that for Rotary.
Okay.
I should still be able to do that. Thursdays work all right for me.
me as well,
Awesome.
Sandra. Rob and I were originally set for the original meeting, so we can just.
And Othello High School, what day is that? Is that a Tuesday? Tuesday. And that was
Stuart and Tony.
were. So I would say maybe just check and make sure they can still do that one, and then if they can't, we'd just find out who else can.
Sounds good.
And then the other one was Hiawatha, correct? Again, see who originally was on that one, and then
Got it.
if we can.
Awesome. That's all we have to report out.
Could you? I know it wasn't in here, but it just occurred to me as you're talking about snow days. Could you just share with us? I got your weekly letter and read about the state of emergency, right? Could you just share?
Yeah, there's been some conversation amongst superintendents within our ESD about the snow days. And there was this thought that we could not submit a waiver to the state because it did not classify as a true emergency. So when we're talking about snow and weather, there was some conversation amongst superintendents that we can't submit this waiver. However, Governor Inslee, he actually submitted a proclamation, and it's 17-01. And he has another proclamation called 17-02, which is not posted yet. So in talking to the apportionment office at OSPI, what Jackie shared with us is that whenever the governor declares a state of emergency for certain counties, then we can say that we can exclude certain snow days. So Proclamation 17.01 actually says from January the 10th all the way through January the 18th, any school district that's named in that proclamation can say that is a state of emergency and we're exempt from making up those snow days. We had 3 that fell within, actually 2 that fell within January the 10th to January the 18th. And then there was another proclamation that was signed 17-02, which covers anything past the 18th. So we had a snow day that was on the 19th. So Proclamation 17-02 covers that. So in fact, we had 3 snow days that's covered within those proclamations that we don't have to make up. So we have 2 snow days that were beyond that proclamation that we have to make up. So one makeup day is going to be on May the 26th. The other makeup snow day is going to be on June the 9th. So our last day of school for this year right now is June the 9th, unless there's more severe weather, then everything is subject to change after that. But for right now, graduation is not affected. And our last day is June the 9th. The only caveat is we still have to work with the apportionment office. Even though we're exempt from those 3 snow days, there's still a WAC that tells us, to all school districts, that we have to make sure that we reach 1,027 hours. So we're in the process of making sure we calculate all of our time. We have to look at our PLC days. We have to look at our early starts, our late start days, our conference days, and we still have to make sure that we are making up 1,027 hours. But right now, we feel that we're in a good condition.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, so that's it for the superintendent report. Is that correct, Dr. Hurst?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll move on to director discussions, item E2. First one is the legislative report, and that is for me. Our iPrism will not let me into that portion of WASDA, so I can't go over it. So, but I will share that it's still a little bit early. There's a lot of bills that are being discussed, but as far as things that are concrete, there's not a lot to talk about. I could talk about things that are speculated, but nothing really huge to talk about anyways, fortunately. So to be continued at our next board meeting. The next item is a student representative report. Ladies, do you have a report for us today?
I kind of have a list. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
No, but speaking on the weather, because I know a lot of people, students were concerned, because we don't want to go to school in the middle of July. But we had some conversations with other students and some of the teachers that I have, and just kind of throwing ideas out there, because I know that other schools start the same time we do and get out like in the middle of May, and so that would be kind of nice. But so midwinter break was kind of a conversation, and I know that it gets voted on, and elementary schools are kind of on that. But it was a lot of people feel, or who I discussed with, feel that it's kind of unnecessary, which I mean, personally I agree with, because we have break and then spring break. So. And then conferences was also another idea. I heard some teachers would be willing to do after school for students who would need it, or like necessarily need their conferences, would have that time, because generally most conferences do, like they schedule them for after school because of work and kind of stuff like that. So I thought that was actually a pretty good idea. And then kind of just thinking about the weather and maybe more snow days. I was just, we were all kind of having a panic attack.
It hasn't happened as long as you guys have been in school.
Mm-mm.
Has it?
Or like the day when we went, we like had to get out at like 12.
That was fun. I'm all about sports, so with the late starts and everything, I know, and school being canceled, I know that some teams, they decided to still have practice even though you're not technically supposed to. And a lot of kids were worried about that, and they were talking about that, saying that they don't think it should happen because they had to drive themselves because their parents were at work and it was just hard for them. And then especially like right now switching admin, that was hard for everyone, and we kind of don't know where we stand yet. Like we've met the new principal, Mr. Vergara, and he's a very nice person. I really like him. I think he's really good, but he hasn't met the entire school. Like students don't know where they stand. Leadership wants to put on a talent show, and we don't know like how to get into contact with him, what he's about, like if he'll say it's okay. We just wish there's more like interaction.
Got it. So what, is there anything that we can do to help with that, or are you looking for suggestions, or?
I really don't know. So when we first met Kovalenko, he had the assembly and he introduced himself, and I think that really like got the kids like, oh, this guy's cool, and he kind of shared his morals, I guess, and that kind of made it easier to understand him and like see him as this authority figure. I think, at least to me, I think if there's a way that we can present Mr. Vergara instead of just saying, oh, like he's here, like have the students actually personally see him and introduce himself so they get to know that side of him. I think that would help.
Thank you.
All right. I got a feeling his boss is going to relay that information to him.
Yeah, kind of going on that, because a lot of students were confused. And we've had discussions in classes of what kind of, because I don't want to, like, you're not supposed to talk bad or you don't really know what's going on. So we're kind of just having discussions about the change and what's going on. So a lot of students were kind of like, they're confused. And So I think they're kind of just going off of that, like what's happening, why this hasn't happened, and like why in the middle of the year. So I think they're just going off. And then I had another quick thing. So I know that Project Bridges was brought up.
Yeah.
I heard it was
gonna be
brought up.
again. I was waiting.
Yeah. So here's my excuse. Schedules, busy, change and admin. But I started, yeah, so getting comfortable and trying to figure out to set up a meeting with Mr. Vergara. I know that he's probably going everywhere and figuring out his plans and everything. But I have the changes written down, and I just need to get in contact with him and see what he's like, know what kind of talk we discuss, and tell him what we did last year, what it's about, what's going on. Remake up some flyers, some new ideas, because I know that I have some new ideas from last year that would need to be fixed. But yeah, so I'm going to start on that. It's just kind of scheduling.
So what would your expectation be of the date of the event?
Yeah, I was supposed to do that earlier. I haven't looked, but probably sometime again in May.
Okay.
Just because I think
I think once you have that concrete, then you'll be able to
Yeah.
set up your timeline of,
Mhm.
of what you have to do before that.
Because this time was just crazy, so it's easier to kind of send it where everyone's kind of chilling out
Sure.
and going into the summer.
All right.
Kind of idea.
Thanks for reporting
Very
on
good.
that. Anything else?
I'm good. I
All
got
right.
you this time.
Thank you both. Okay, the next item on here is the capital levy committee. So just informative for, I think that most people here walked in at the end, somewhere at the capital levy committee, but at our last board meeting, I believe that's when we determined what the scope would be for the committee. We were able to have the committee meeting today, kind of give them some history of what brought us to that point. Task them with what the board is asking, and so I feel very confident that this committee will run with it from there. We'll set up the meetings that they need to and get back to us by the 13th with a recommendation. The next item on director discussions is the PTA PTO dinner. So invitations have gone out for that, correct? Okay. And that is going to be on the 31st. I hear there's an expectation of a pretty big turnout. So that's going to be for us as a board, the same format as last time, same talking points. Were the student reps able to go to that last time? So these are some items that the board had come up with of being able to, we had been having forums, and we invite people, there's an open invitation to come to forums, and we didn't get great turnout. So one of the ideas in our board retreat this year was that we would actually just invite different groups to come have dinner and listen to things that are going on in the district. And so that's on the 31st from 6 till 8. And so if you guys would like to come and be part of that, you're welcome to. This specific one, we already had one where we invited dignitaries, community members, business leaders, things like that. And now this one is specifically an invitation to PTA, PTO leaders and all members, right? PTAs, PTOs. Yeah. Any questions on that? And that what Dr. Hurst is a chance to share his vision, and the board members each had some talking points in it. So we won't expect you to speak.
It's here at the district board office.
Oh yeah, that's here. Next item is the date for the special board workshop for central office transformation. I think, Mike, you're aware that the 30th was going to be the date of that board workshop. It ended up being that was the best opportunity to reschedule the facility, the big facility meeting that was originally scheduled for the 17th. And unfortunately, it was a snow day. That was an ice day, I believe, wasn't that? That was a nice day. And so there was some discussion about whether or not to maybe have that before or after the PTO dinner. I believe I got a text saying that the board consensus was they would be willing to have that after the PTO dinner, so at 8 o'clock. Okay. So that's the plan with that. The next item, annual board retreat. So we had discussed having the annual board retreat. We picked a date, and it was Mother's Day. It ended up being right. And then I think the last one, the question was check with your wives and see if that's okay with them. I think there was some that may be, some that might not be. I don't know where you were at with.
It was vetoed.
It was a negative. So Director Ashton wanted me to tell everybody that the weekend before is available. And it sounds like if there's a couple that just can't do it, then maybe we could just shoot for the weekend before. Does that sound reasonable?
As long as it's not on Mother's Day, yes.
He said that I can't believe that she just didn't want you to bring her to a nice cabin for Mother's Day. You wouldn't have seen her. So I don't. What date is that? Can you tell me what date that is? Your calendar.
Be the 5th and 6th.
5th and 6th. And I would say we probably need to just plan on that, because Tony said there's no more coming open, and they're kind of going away fast. So maybe right now we're 5th and 6th, and we'll just get that concrete next board meeting. Are there any other discussions, Mike, that you can think of that are being left out that you?
No, you covered the special workshop after the dinner.
Okay.
Or after that. Yes.
Okay. And all items in section F are to go over Survey Monkeys and action items, so we cannot go over those. So we'll table those all till the next board meeting. We'll move on to the item G, which are policy review. Again, these would be items that would be need an action. But one thing I would say, GP 7.1, my memory was that we would just put that right into general consent. I wish I would have said something about this before, just to have that done right. And I know we had the committee meeting today, and I shared with them the tasks from the board, but it really hasn't been approved yet. But it looks, I think you hit everything right on that, Sandra. So I would suggest we just go ahead and put that right into the consent agenda next time. And it can always be pulled if the board member has a problem with it. But now I would go ahead and change the term January 23rd to February 13th, so it didn't start till tonight. We had hoped it was going to get going last week, just didn't happen. And I would make a suggestion with item 8.1 to have for next one. I saw that you added in BSR 4 to replace BSR 5, but BSR 4 was an existing BSR and already is reviewed in. I think we just did, right? December 21st. So that one, you can just take that out completely, because BSR 5 just does not exist anymore. But the other changes you made on that look good, and the board can go over those next time. Okay. Director Garza, you're set for the assessment of the meeting.
Can we assess it with 2 present?
Sure. There might be some not applicables, but
Okay, board self-assessment. Date of meeting, 1/23/2017, January 23rd, 2017. Board members present, 2 of us. General meeting behavior. The agenda was well planned to focus on the real work of the board. That's commendable. The board followed its agenda and did not get sidetracked. Commendable. The board's deliberations and decision-making processes were public. Commendable. Participation was balanced. All participated. No one dominated. That's commendable. Members listened attentively, avoiding side conversations. You guys didn't see Rob and I talking about anything. Commendable. Governance principles review. Board actions occur at the policy level rather than operational. Yes. The board reviews policy about each topic before discussing that issue. Yes. In writing additional policies, the board starts with a broad statement and becomes more detailed in a logical and disciplined sequence. That's not applicable tonight. The board chair helps the board efficiently conduct its meeting. Well done, President Pro Temp. The board supports the superintendent in any reasonable interpretation of its policies. Yes. I will give us a commendable overall for the meeting.
the third stringer comes in with a commendable. Okay, well, we've already adjourned the meeting, so no need to do that. Thank you all.
Thank you.